Hello again. It's all going on around here. I've got lawnmowers and barking dogs and happy children in the garden to bring you some more books. Irish authors, as you all know, I do very much love those, and I have three for you today. So I shall, all three of them, I could probably talk for. I have the Irish gift of the gab. I could probably talk for a long time about all three, so I shan't do that to you. I shall just um, give you rather more precisely what I thought about all of them. Obviously, love them all, otherwise I would not be reviewing them. First one that I would like to talk about is Neil Jordan's The Well of St. Nobody. And that one comes to us from, I have to check this because I'll probably say something very odd. Bloomsbury, I do believe. Bloomsbury. I was right. Now, Neil Jordan has a swag of other books written, is a filmmaker, and a great creator, great storyteller, and makes it superbly visual. Has done that thing of keeping a very small cast of characters, and has set this in Ireland, where our two main characters, they're the ones we're really interested, are a retired English concert pianist who obviously had achieved the pinnacle of success. And through he's forced to take early retirement because he has a sort of psoriasis condition of his hands, which means he can no longer play, and his hands are on a pretty, you know, pretty bad condition. So that's painful. And he has retired to a rectory in a local to a small village on the sea, and a woman walks by him in this village where he's having his cup of coffee, and she recognizes him. Her name is Tara. She's also a musician, but had never achieved this level of um, um, skill. And she is a part-time music teacher and has also moved out. I mean, we'll get her backstory later, but she lives in the same town. And as it happens, William Barrow is looking for a daily housekeeper to come in and help him out. And she sees the ad and says, I might do that, applies for it. And you already kind of know um, that she has recognized him, and he has had no reason to recognize her. But even when she turns up in the house, he doesn't actually recognize her. And this is what the whole novel is about: is why does she recognize him, and what is it about him that means he doesn't recognize her? And you realize that it was no just passing acquaintance; that they had been at um, musical events together, um, and I think that probably what I admire most is Jordan's ability to not quickly cast um, the male character necessarily as being narcissistic. You know, you're going to expect that with the perform that there may be narcissism, there may be lots of reasons, but the one that you're sort of, at least my female brain goes to, is that he was so self-involved that if he'd met this woman before, why would he remember her? There is a kind of a sub um, plot in that there is a young man, drug addict. Well, there are actually two young men, and this becomes important. And there is a connection to this case, and it's quite obvious early on that you're wondering about things a bit. But Tara, this I find fascinating as well, tells William. They find that at the back of the rectory, they find a well, disused and actually quite dangerous. So they have to work out what to do. Is it to fill it all in, cover it up, or she gets like this whim where she tells him of legend, where if you put your hands in the well, or put the water from the well on an afflicted part, you will be cured. And let's go with this piece of mythology, this piece of legend, lore, miracle, whatever. And then things do happen. I won't go into that. Just to I think my admiration was mostly for the shifting relationship between these two people and the growing realization that they had meant something to each other possibly earlier, or they'd known each other how well, and their sort of withdrawal, retreat from each other and advance. It's almost in several movements. It's quite cleverly composed. Um, but it was that sort of focus um, on lore and legend, on what you believe about yourself, and what how your past lingers. I mean, even the past from ancient story, how that lingers. But I particularly loved Jordan's handling of their personalities, because it's not, guy is not good, woman's great, because we like them better. It was much, much psychologically much more complex, and a very lovely book. Nothing, that distresses. If you don't want to be distressed, I think distress has its place, but very, very lovely. Questions a lot of things, but it's beautifully set. It's bijou. Next one up, Irish, is from John Boyne, who we all know and love. His new one is called Water. Another absolute stunner read. I very much love this one as well. A different feel. So we have um, an Irish Dublin woman, Vanessa Carvin, who comes to an island off the coast of Galway. And she is um, instantly adopts a new name. She's looking for anonymity. She even kind of changes her hairstyle. And she calls herself Willow Hale, which is quite a change from Vanessa Carvin, but that's who she is. And she rents a place on this island. And you know what's going to happen. You know that the locals, the community that's roots go deep into the soil there, will say, who is the blow-in? What do they want? And of course there will be, and we have this in narratives all over the world, there will be places that people go to because they're suffering or because they're on the run from something. And this is not unknown or unusual. Some lovely little portraits of the people on that island. So you're going to have the young fellows who can't stand it there and want to leave. You're going to have the young fellow who's sort of the last one in his family and has to keep the family farm going. You had this very sticky beak woman who comes over and tells Willow what she, you know, wants to find out the gossip, and wants to let her know that they've run people out of the island for bad behavior, i.e., being gay. It's hilarious. Before, and that if she doesn't come up to scratch, that they'll run her off the island. Similarly, so to watch herself. And Vanessa, aka Willow, is this fierce intelligence in a way that she understands that those might be the rules, but she's basically having none of it in a way. So she meets other characters. There's a local priest. So it's not a tiny, tiny community. There's a local priest called Ifeki, who's not trying to drag her back into the church exactly, but like anybody else will know, she's there because things have been going on in her past. And there's a cat who squats. He's rather funny. Belongs to the sticky beak woman, which I thought was rather good because it obviously preferred Willow, and we know why. There's a little bit of a romance in there. But the thing is, what's she running away from? As it turns out, and I won't tell you too much, but she is, that she had a husband, Brendan, has a daughter, Rebecca. You know that there's something quite tragic that's happened in her past, and you know that something has happened with Brendan, and she doesn't know whether or not she's responsible or complicit. There's a scandal. So we're in this world of men getting away with things, and of men wanting their actions to be. I don't think they don't want or that's not what John Boyne is saying, that they want the slate wiped clean. But there's a point where even that by their admission of I haven't been a good husband, they still want women to turn around and say, sure, you're great and God bless you. And Carvin, or Willow, is one of those women who'll say, well, feck you, I'm not going to stand on the sidelines for you either. And there are characters in on the island who are not squeaky clean, and she gives them what for. And I love her for that. I love that Boyne has written this woman to be not just able to stick it to the fellas and say, we're not going to, just because you say, oh, I'm really sorry, I did something wrong, I'm not going to turn around and say, you're great, you said it, now it's all over, and I'll make you a cup of tea. She's sitting there saying, no penance really is going to be good enough. But at the same time, she looks at herself, and this is this interiorization. She's lost contact with Rebecca. She's got no contact with her ex-husband because of what he's done. But it's her ability to say, but I don't know what I knew and didn't know, and it's never that clear. Excellent writing. It's not a very, very, very long book, but it's absolutely worth a plunge into for this psychological sort of peeling back and having a look at who she thinks she is. And a good ending. Loved that. Yeah, smart book. Very, very enjoyable. And wouldn't mind finding that island in Galway. Not that I've got anything to run away from, but it sounded like a real laugh. Last one up is, on that one comes to us, sorry, I should have said that early, from Doubleday, which is Random House Publishing. The last one I will do today is another Bloomsbury, Oneworld Bloomsbury, and this one is one you all know, have all heard a lot about, and I have decided just to give it a quick review because it's been talked about, it's all been done, but I came to it a bit late. Prophet Song by Paul Lynch, which won the Booker. And usually, we all go, yeah, now it's won the Booker, we're all going to read it. And I have heard a couple of conversations of people saying, I'm not sure this for me, et cetera, et cetera. And I thought, well, I'm going to give you my 3 cents worth on this book, which is that it is an absolute, it's a whirlwind of a book. It's a tornado. And I know that's very topical for us at the moment, but it's a hard book in a lot of ways, but it's absolutely searingly important for very many reasons. I think one is for the fact that when things get difficult, what are women left doing? And through no fault of their own. And I think that we are exploring this to a certain extent. I think that Lynch is looking at that, because that's the tendency of a kind of a war narrative or a civil unrest narrative, which is what this is, to have the men, perpetrators of violence or staunch defenders of the nation, if they're taken out of the picture, the rest of society has to be kept going some way, and people have to do their best for the generations to come or for their own children. And this is a book about survival. So we are in Ireland, and we are, when I first started reading, having read nothing beforehand because I felt that was important. So I'd read no reviews, didn't want to have my take, if you like, influenced in any way. That when it's won the Booker, it's won it for a very good reason. I thought it was kind of a rewriting of the Troubles, the 70s Ireland. And then I sort of said, no, it's alternative. And a lot of people get turned off by speculative alternative. Isn't our real world difficult enough? And when you look at it, you might be forgiven for saying that. But I think that's what writing does. It gives us a vision of something that could possibly happen. And as we have, as history has proven, creative writing has often given us a vision of what the future could be like. And then that is borne out by what science does or lets us do. To get back to the story, civil unrest in Ireland, a new government has taken over and things become pretty hairy. Eilish Stack lives at home with her 4 children. Her husband, Larry, who works for the union, has been detained. And we're in that kind of universe where nobody gives you any information. So we're left with her and her children, who range from about, if I'm inaccurate at these ages, I apologize to Paul Lynch. She got a very young child all the way up to about 18. And it's how she wants to keep them safe. Why do you stay in a place when there is an option for her to go to Canada where she has a sister? How important is it to stay there because her husband might still be alive? How does she get milk? What are her neighbours like? She has a father living with dementia. And he has a dog, and you know that that's going to be a sort of a concern for her. How many borders will she have to cross? And basically, what Lynch is doing is he's taking a war zone that exists, as we now know, in Gaza, has been in Syria, Rwanda, all of these places where there's been great civil unrest. And then basically, if you're the others, you just get shot, taken away, disappeared, or kneecapped. And all of those things will come into this narrative, but it's letting us sort of deal with that uncomfortableness of saying that's always something that happens over there. But w- why don't we bring it closer to us and make it happen in Ireland? You know, it's not like it hasn't sort of happened before, basically, but make this refugee status, this huge civil unrest and ungovernable uh, political stroke military action affect, ruin the lives of the citizens of Ireland. Absolutely intriguing, the narrative of when do you give up, when do you just say it's happening, deal with it, why do you keep fighting, why do your children think differently from you? It's so important that you're almost doing yourself a disservice not to read it. It's particularly in the current climate. It's not because the world is shit that you don't read it. Here I'm telling you what to do. I think it's a great book. Read it. That's all I'm going to say. Please like and subscribe. That'd be really good. Thanks. And I'll see you again next time.